In the darkness, cold and weird, suddenly a car appeared, cast in blackness with noir hues, in the homage of some jazzy blues. Is it alien, and with a mission, or merely Volvo's Black Edition? Well, I'll tell you what, the way things are going, I sure hope it's merely just that Volvo S60 Recharge. The darkness. Some people fear the darkness, but others embrace it. What we have in front of us is a 2023 Volvo S60 Recharge Ultimate Black Edition. That is many things, all wrapped in one package. And it's dirty. Isn't it horrible? You come to see this, in fact, incredibly attractive car. It's got so many things going for it, and yet it's dirty. Well, that's the thing about black cars. Even if they're not that clean, they show a lot of dirt. But this one's amazing because, first of all, it's from our friends at Volvo, and there is our plug-in. So it's not just the term recharge means exactly that. You might think it's electric, and if you've been paying attention to the current trends, for 2023, Volvo is only selling cars that are either fully electric or hybrids, but there's no gas-only Volvo for sale in the 2023 model year. They're very serious about getting their carbon footprint in order. So this is a plug-in hybrid. And it also, I have discovered in driving this car, it's a really sophisticatedly smooth hybrid that I don't know if they got, as we all know, Toyota's been doing the hybrid thing more and longer than everybody else, really. Honda came out slightly earlier, but has not embraced the hybrid life the way Toyota has. And Toyota has really refine their system beautifully so that it transitions from the gas engine to the electric engine using both, using one or the other. Well, this Volvo is right up there, in my opinion, at the same level of sophistication as what Toyota has as far as how smooth the drivetrains interact with each other. This is also a all-wheel drive version, means the rear wheels, it's normally a front-wheel drive gas-powered car up front. In back, it's 100% electrically powered. So, and it's designed primarily sort of like the Toyota electronic four-wheel drive system is to get you out of a mess. It's not something you're going to be driving all day long in all-wheel drive over boulders and stuff like that. It's not like that. That's not what it's about. But what it is about is, this being the ultimate version, of course, it's about comfort, it's about quiet, it's about great efficiency, it's about good ecology, and it's also a lot of fun to drive. Why? Well, the total system output with when you combine the electric motor and the gasoline engine is an amazing 455 horsepower, and in the torque department it's 523 pounds-feet. That is one powerful. Hello there, how are you? This is my friend the Shadow. He comes with me when I do late afternoon shoots like this. But look at that, those numbers. I mean, this thing is powerful. The engine itself is a 4-cylinder, 2-liter supercharged up slash turbocharged up. Which is it? Well, for the longest time, Volvo has been running engines that are both supercharged and turbocharged. As far as I know, and we'll get into detail in a minute about this, it's just turbocharged. But where the real muscle comes from, though, is the electric assist, which is, I believe, by itself 143 horsepower. So we've got a whole lot to talk about here in terms of technology, but what really surprised me about this car, and I think you'll find very interesting, is it's just a beautiful driver. I mean, it's funny because it almost looks, if you look at the chronology of Volvo going into the hybrid game, you might think they're kind of, at the last minute here, they're just throwing everything out there and doing it because it's time to do it. And you would think some of the stuff wouldn't be, would not be as smoothed out. There'd be a lot of rough edges as far as the drivetrain. Boy, it sure doesn't feel like that when you drive it. It's got its 8-speed transmission, which is a normal transmission for the most part. I don't believe it has any electric elements in it, say like a CVT that's attached to a hybrid system. This is it seems like more of a conventional transmission, but it's a very smooth one. So without further ado, let's take a look at that motor, because there's a whole lot going on in this car, and it starts under the hood. So right off the bat, what's the first thing I notice? I made a comment. I haven't done any videos on the new Tundra yet because I wasn't doing this YouTube thing back when I had mine this year. I'll get one very shortly, I believe. But one of the things I thought was weird about the new Tundra is how the hood didn't open very much. It opened about half as much as the hood you see before you on this Volvo S60. And that's how you open up your hood, folks. That thing is out of the way. All the light gets in. It's kind of amazing anyway. I just thought I'd point that out. But here we have it. 2 liters of turbocharged excellence. And what else do we have? Well, I'll tell you. We have an outstanding electrical system, if I can get this gimbal to behave itself. There we are. And you might be able, can you hear that? Not sure what's going on there, but it's doing something electronic that they do. When you look at an engine like this, you're looking at a lot of complexity. But I tell you, it's also kind of amazing to look at, because look at how smooth everything looks. And speaking of smooth, if you'll look to your left here, you'll see this structure. See this structure right here? I believe that's some kind of a motor mount. It's some kind of isolated system to keep the engine smooth. I believe that's all that is. Could be wrong. This is YouTube. I'm not being paid, so I'm not doing my work. But let's look back here. First of all, what do we got back here? Is this hot? Is this hot? No. That's where our intake system is on our 2 liter. That would mean up front would be where the turbocharging is. Are we right? Yes, we are. It's down yonder. As you can see, there's an amalgam that the orange cable always tells you that's where some powerful electric stuff is going on, to let you know to be careful around it for that very reason. But as we look in here, you can see how complex all that is. But it's complex, but it seems organized, which I appreciate. I like it when things are organized as well as complex. And over here, here's our air box right here. And then we have, this is a major electrical component, i.e. the part of the electric motor system. Exactly which part? Maybe most of it, as far as what assists in driving the front wheels. Like I said, a big component of the electrical aspect of this is the rear wheel drive system, which is completely autonomous in that there's no physical mechanical connection between the front engine and the rear drivetrain. The rear drivetrain is all its own thing and is 100% powered by electricity via a battery system. So, look at here. We have, I don't see any oil filters sitting on top because this ain't no Subaru, but we do have your standard especially since there are so many turbocharged 2 liters running around right now. We have our standard transverse layout. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cylinders are right here. And is it hard to get the stuff? It depends on what you're trying to get to. I would say overall it's probably pretty average once this engine cover is taken off to access things like that you hardly ever need to access now, like spark plugs. You change those 120,000 miles, something like that. But with all the things and all the packaging going on here, it still seems to be, I've been avoiding using this term, but I like using this term. There's a certain elegance to it all. And what I'm wondering is, in terms of the turbocharger, where we have our, oh gosh, I can't see it. You know, the engine is real interesting because it's actually much further back than you might. The actual engine block is about here. So there's all kinds of stuff going on under there, I'm telling you now. But we certainly look like we have an intercool system that's involved with all this. So, wow, how about that, huh? Isn't that something? Like I said, what were those numbers again? 523 foot-pounds of torque. That's the one that really gets me because that's trailer towing territory. Can you tow a trailer with this? I'll look. I don't know. Naturally, there's the C60, which is the SUV version of this, as opposed to RS here. But I'm telling you, it's such a beautiful car by itself. Let's see if I can reach all the way up here and put this hood down. Definitely aluminum, nice and light. And that's a real beautiful Volvo right there. It's the black edition, you know. It's black and it's like what we call dark lightning. That's what I'll call it. See that lightning bit, that's the electrical side. Anyway, cool, huh? Onward. Wow, aren't those pretty? 19-inch diamond cut alloy wheels. Diamond cut is what they call it at Volvo. And absolutely huge disc rotor on there. Look at that thing. Boy, it's big, as is the caliper. So naturally this has very substantial brakes on it. And there's our little electric port for your plug-in moments. And as we head back here, I wanted to show you something really cool. A trunk with room in it. Woo! Not electric, but not necessary. It's spring-loaded. In here, this is our, it hadn't even been used yet. Volvo made in China. Wow, huh, who knew? That is your plug-in cord for your ordinary use when you are traveling on the road and need to plug into a charger or even household current, which was what we'll probably do. Because I haven't sprung for a charger for my house yet, so it would be just used with test vehicles, and I'm not about to do that. If any of these companies wants to give me one, yeah, you can't get a hold of me anyway, so don't worry about it. But look at the size of this trunk. There is tons of room in here for multiple suitcases. It's a nice flat surface, and there doesn't seem to be any intrusion to speak of like a battery pack, which you might expect with something that has such a substantial electrical component to it, especially since plug-ins have bigger batteries than regular hybrids. Is there a spare? No, that is your, what we would call your, let's see here, there we are, sorry. Woo! That's your flat repair kit. Looks like you're doing a little bit of surgery in there actually, but that's what it is. And I think immediately in front of that is part of your battery system, or it could be just part of the rear drive system. Hang on, I am a professional. There we are. Room, 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 room. I'm telling you, this is very impressive how they've done this here. You do have your ski through there. Nice. Nice. I still keep coming back to the beautiful noir. I do like this color scheme. It's very straightforward. What color is it? It's black. It's black. What about the part that says S60? It's black. What about the part that says Volvo? It's black. Looky there, it's like completely. We are talking a total system of darkness. Yeah. Boy, wait till you drive it, they say. Well, it's true. And we'll do that in just a minute. Hang on. Stay with us. Look at here. Here's where we have the virtual. You know, your virtual is naturally your instrument cluster. And it's a little different than some of the other Volvo. Well, actually, it's important to remember that in 2023 model year, there are no all-gas powered Volvos. They're all either hybrids or fully electric. You know, when they move on, they move on. So what we have here is on our left-hand side, we have our speedometer, and which is also supplemented by a digital output. And then we have this here is your, that's the closest road sign that tells you the speed limit, because they always want you to be aware of that. Then we have a map in the middle, which is nice. You can change that from that to that. I haven't figured out how any other way I can change that. And off to the right, you have what is basically an energy meter. And what it does is it kind of tells you stuff that I find a bit vexing. For example, let's say for a minute that I take the brake off and put it in reverse, and all of a sudden we go all the way up to the top, which means what? Well, that means we're running on full electric, or pure, as it likes to call it. And on the bottom is our gasoline part of things. So if I go back to park, it goes back in the intermediate. And then it's also the charge meter too, depending on how much charging is actually going on when you're driving. As far as what the engine is doing, you're kind of on your own. I haven't seen a lot of real clear indicators that tell you that your engine is doing things. But what is useful is right down here, you have your, that's basically your gas gauge, but it also has your overall range. And then directly above this is your battery, and right now we don't have hardly any battery left at all. It's saying I have a range of 2 miles that I could drive on full electric, or pure, as they like to call it. So that's basically your instrument cluster. I mean, it doesn't tell you a hell of a lot more than that, which is fine. I mean, it's a lot of hybrids are this way. Is they're not going to, they don't have a whole lot of graphics to tell you what you're doing, with the exception of Toyota. Toyota is great because you can find out through usually more than one display, usually the center stack display, touchscreen, or the somewhere in the instrument cluster that will tell you what you're up to as far as whether the engine is running, whether the engine's propelling the vehicle, whether it's full electric, all that stuff, which I find good to have, but not critical, because this car is basically, it does everything beautifully, smoothly in terms of integration between the gas engine and the electric motors. It really, really does. It's impressive. And so that's your basic instrument cluster. We go over to our center stack here. Naturally, this being a Volvo, we do the portrait mode instead of the landscape mode, which is fine if you're into that. And this car also has a heads-up display, I believe. I think I've turned it all off. But here, here's your basic home screen, and then this is one of your most important things right there. That little gear symbol is access to stuff that you need to have access to. For example, here's driving. We'll go to driving, and it tells us, right now we're in pure mode. Kept referring to that. That means we're on all electric mode. When we back up, we're going to be all electric mode, and probably as long as we're putting along less than about 10 miles per hour right now, maybe even a little more than that, yeah, you would be on pure mode until it exhausts the available battery range that it has, and in which case you will no longer be on pure mode. It will pop over here to hybrid. And you have these other selections, of course, constant all-wheel drive. That engages the, totally separated from the front drivetrain, the rear drivetrain, which is just an electric motor, literally. And if you put that on, that'll be running all the time, like if you're going up a very icy slope. And then we have your power, which will lean towards the front drive system, which is the engine-powered drive system. And it's, again, the front drive system is not purely by the engine. It's also supplemented by the electric motor, and sometimes is completely the electric motor, ESC. And then when the pure is exhausted and it has to go in the hybrid mode, it just pops the light on right there to tell you if you need to know. You have a selection down here as far as your battery usage. That's something you should absolutely just leave on automatic, because you can do hold, which will run on the engine more to save your electric battery capacity for whatever reason you need to save it for. And then you have the charge side, which is when you're charging, I suppose. Or it may actually accentuate the regenerative braking so that you are maximizing your ability to charge. This, I'll show you in just a second about, speaking of regenerative braking, and what essentially is also the one pedal driving system, also known as the golf cart system. That's what I call it. But here we have in the pilot assist system. Now, your pilot assist is part of your adaptive cruise control and part of your cruise control period. And I have it turned off here, but you just turn it on just like that. There you go. Then you have your safety assistance, which is your lane keeping aid, which I have turned off because it's annoying me. And road sign information is on, and ready to drive notification. Why you turn that on and off, I have no idea, but they do. So there you go. Now, creep, if you have someone in the right-hand seat, your passenger seat, who's a creep, you turn that on and they'll be muted. No, I'm lying. That's not true. I believe that's when you're in a stop and go situation. I haven't been able to actually figure out what the hell that is. And I'll look it up. Maybe we'll look it up together in just a second. And then our steering feel firm is set on to just generally give you a little bit more of a firm feel to your steering. That's all that does. And it's that's pretty much what you want. Now we go to owner's manual down here, and I'm going to put in creep. You are a creep. Creep. And it tells us this. Creep mode can simplify driving at lower speeds, such as in stop-and-go traffic or in parking lots. You see? I figured that's what it was. When the function is active, the vehicle will move slowly in the selected direction of travel. That's always good when it does that, without the accelerator pedal being used. So that's good. That's a very useful feature to have in stop-and-go traffic, which a lot of people face every single day in their commute. We'll go back to the main screen here. But anyway, the quality of the display, as you can see, is excellent. It's very, very, first of all, your maps are tied in with Google, although it doesn't have the virtual reality kind of thing, but it does have pretty damn good maps. I've used the navigation system on this quite a bit, and it's worked well, very well. And you have the 3D mode on right there, so there you go. Now, if you drop down, here's kind of a strange, useful, frequent feature panel, which includes your flashers. Then you have your, hear that? That's your front defroster, and then you have your rear defroster, and then you have left and right. This is kind of like a miniature, tiny radio control mode where you can go from your favorites from one side to the other, and then you can pause it, you can turn it back on, see, like that, and there you go. Now we get cool. Behold, if you will, the crystal selector. This is made of, it's an enormous diamond. That's why the car's expensive, because it's an enormous diamond right here. I really like that. I think that's kind of cool looking. But it's all electronic, you're shifting, and what we have is reverse and neutral and drive. And if you go down one more into B mode, B mode is B mode. Hi, I'm B mode. B mode is the mode that accentuates your 1 foot driving situation, if you're into that. Whereas you press down the accelerator, you go, you level up on the accelerator, and you stop. It basically will slow you down. It engages the brakes. And I think there's quite a bit of regenerative braking involved with that. And to go into park, press that button right there. There you go. Our engine stop-start, even that is different on Volvos, right? Instead of a button to push, you turn it to the right, like that. And that's your start-stop. And then over here we have your park brake. which is engaged now. And the A is, of course, automatic hold when you're on hills and that kind of stuff, I think. I can't get this thing to automatically put itself in and out in terms of the parking brake when I put it in the park and when I put it in the drive, but that's probably me. I'm doing something wrong, I think. I mean, this is my fault. I blame myself. Before we lose all our sun, because I'm kind of in this area, I'm going to pivot up, and there is our beautiful panorama. Woo, isn't that nice? That's very nice. And it does increase the airiness. And if you want to put the shade on, you got to do this right here. Oops, I just opened it. See, this is the thing I don't like about these. Everybody's using them in Europe now. I don't like them. There we go. And that will now close. Close the pod bay doors, Hal. Close them. And as you can see, it never completely obscures, but it does take the sun off of you. So you never completely lose your feeling of freedom. So these leather seats, I have a fabric insert, a textile insert. I believe it's leather. I don't have the, do I have them? I don't have the Monroney with me. What an idiot. I'm supposed to have it with me while I'm doing this. Oh well. Oh look, we're moving. Look at this. What's causing this? The car is not moving. Is the earth shifting on its axis again? I certainly hope not. Well, anyway, how's our seat room? It's excellent. The seat adjustments are interesting because I just hit the button on the side here, and there's your lumbar, which I'm filling it up. It's getting larger and more firm in my lower back, which feels very nice. And then you go back like so, and we got this right here. There we go. Turn where we are, and this is our front. Whee! Our front thigh pad is going in and out now. That's good. And what else can we play with here? This is a lot of fun here. Oh, and here we turn. That's to that. We've already done that. Now, what's this? What's this here? We can't do that there. So let's go. Let's go here. We've done that. We've done that. Can we do this? So that's basically just your ergonomic stuff, because the basic front, back, sliding, reclining, and all that is perfectly normal as you're used to. So, room is very, very good. These are real nice seats too. They got excellent side bolsters to keep you in control when you're doing your spirited driving. And I know you people, you like your spirited driving. We go up top, we got our SOS. If you have a prescription service, I believe that you can contact Volvo directly and they can get you help if you need some help. And we got this here, which is your lights. Whoa, brightness. Very nice. And here we have your individual map lights. Look at it, the fade in, the fade out. Everybody's doing it. It's the thing. So, let's head back, shall we? Oh, we're heading back. Heading back. About 84 degrees on the opening angle there. And we get in and we flip up our headrest, and it has a lot of room in here. It's very roomy. It's very dark too. Can I put some light in here? There's one. Come on now. Come on. There you go. A little bit more light for you. As you can see, we do have a fair amount of headroom. The front seat where I was just sitting is back fairly far right now. So your leg room is very good. You have a very high tunnel here, which is strange because there is no drive shaft running that rear differential assembly. So I don't know, that's probably where they run all the cables and things. To the best of my knowledge, I'm of the belief that the hybrid battery is probably underneath the seat. I don't detect it though, and I don't detect any kind of ventilation. So it may not be. It may actually be on the lower part of the chassis. Up here we got you heated seats. The outboard parts of this seat are heated, which is very, very nice. We always like that in the rear seat. It's like your passengers are not forgotten, which I think is the way it should be. And here we have our armrest, which we will test out. Yes, sirree, Bob. Oh, that is nice. Do we have something to press here? Woo, yeah. There's our cup holder. And this is a real nice height for this particular armrest. You know, I'm big on those. I love it when people, whether you're listening to a podcast or whatever the heck it is, and they say, well, you know that I like this, or you know that I have joy. No, you don't know that. And why should you? I mean, my God, arrogance. But anyway, I give this top marks, this particular armrest, and here we have our ski-through, which I'm unable to open right now because it may be locked or something. Well, that sure looks like a ski-through. Let's see, what if I do this, or do this, pull on this? I'm gonna break something. Well, I think that goes straight to the back end. So you can put your skis through there, as far as I know. But headroom is very good at 5'8", and I still got an inch or two above me. That's good. Interesting, the roof line, also known as the belt line of the car, is fairly high on this, but you don't feel claustrophobic because of it. It's perfectly tolerable in my view. And we don't have any shades or anything like that, but we do have a window that goes down about 95%, I'd say, somewhere in there. No shades, but you know, you can't have everything. I mean, you people. So let's put that to sleep. Let's try. There we go. And we'll put this one to sleep too. And now that you're asleep, you've been asleep since about 2 minutes in. I know how you are. But there we are, folks. That's your interior on your S60 Recharge Black Edition. Oh, you might have noticed that just like the outside, the inside's very black. Everything's black here. And it's nice. It's elegant. It's classy. It's a real nice car.
Hey, mister, you forgot to put a stamp on this. Hey, Black Edition!
All right, Yana te natura, me roja teane, as the people that say that say. So, I welcome you to the portrait format, aided by Google Maps, to help you guide your way in the world of Google-ness. How do I feel about this? Well, this is interesting because I'm not real sure if I can adjust. I could put in the route options, traffic. One of the things that's real interesting about this S60 is the fact that I thought I turned off all the steering assist, but apparently I have not. See, if I go over here, well, it's not doing it now. It's really weird. Sometimes, I think it's, here's the thing. I think there's two different kinds of systems at play here. I think what we're seeing is one system that tries to keep you in your lane, and another system, which I haven't figured out how to turn off, that is trying to keep you on the road and not going into the shrubbery, I guess. I don't know. You know, the thing about the Volvo is all about safety. And I just wrote a review for a publication that shall remain nameless, because I did it in another nom de plume, which you're actually living in one right now. And in it I was talking about the basic thing that auto manufacturing and auto design is taking on right now. Everything, periodically in time, there's changes. And like, for example, one of the examples I used, a big change was the automatic transmission. Everybody was shifting their cars manually until the automatic came along. And then all of a sudden you weren't doing that anymore, and you were doing a different kind of thing. And the car was doing all of it, and it was something to learn, because you don't you don't quite drive an automatic the same way you drive a manual, obviously. So that was a big change when that happened. That was a revolutionary change, in my opinion. Now, what are they facing these days, auto manufacturers like Volvo? Well, they're facing technology. And technology is all over them. It's climbing up their legs. It's peeping out from behind their wives' blouse. It's everywhere. So what do we have now? Well, they're incorporating all this technology into as many things in the car that they can to both aid safety and convenience, I would say, primarily in that order. And another example of something that was pretty revolutionary, that was enabled by our computer revolution, although it's been around for a long time now, comparatively speaking, for most of us, is anti-lock brakes, because you use a technique completely different when you brake with anti-lock brakes than you do with non-anti-lock brakes, especially in slick conditions. People now use the term "pump the brakes" in like a literary function or an analogous function when they're discussing, oh, you better pump the brakes on that idea. They rarely use that term when it actually means pumping the brakes, because most vehicles of all sizes now do have anti-lock brakes. And how do you stop an anti-lock brake car? You just nail the pedal. There is no pumping. Oh, look at all them little Christmas ornaments that fell off a giant Christmas tree. How about that? Oh, that's interesting. So, bottom line here, so now we have all this technology that's shown up largely in the form of displays that all the manufacturers are trying to use and incorporate and adopt to their way of doing things. So that leaves us with a situation. Will they do it properly? Is some of this stuff's sake? I can't even say it. A lot of the technology that I encounter on a daily basis, I wonder about, because some of it doesn't help, it just distracts. And this is going to happen when you have something that's so pervasive and you have all these people that are pretty much demanding that they have, they want to pay for their technology. This is not an inexpensive automobile. So they look at the price and say, why does it cost so much? Well, one thing you can look at is the powertrain on this S60 Recharge, which is quite interesting, quite amazing, actually. I mean, you're looking at over 500 horsepower, and it's a full hybrid, but you also can plug it in to have a longer electric-only range. I mean, this is a very, very versatile vehicle. It's got all-wheel drive, and all these things. Of course, all-wheel drive, as I mentioned earlier, is the rear wheels are just come into play when necessary. Otherwise, it's a front-wheel drive car. And the engine is primarily, it has nothing to do with powering the rear wheels at all, except possibly providing a little bit of juice to the batteries, which ultimately turn the electric motor, which drives the rear drivetrain. So this is a very sophisticated car just right off the bat, just in terms of the drivetrain. There's part of your cost. But a lot of other cost goes into the development and deployment of all this technology. For right now, I'm going to turn on our cruise control. And this also has the pilot system, which will help steer the car. And I'm not using that at the moment. I am just using regular adaptive cruise control. And so far, my experience with this Volvo has been, I would describe the adaptive cruise control as average. It still does the same thing that so many other vehicles do, in that it tends to exaggerate braking. When it's a perfect example, I use it all the time because I find it to be a very common, at least where I drive and the situations I drive under, it's a very common scenario. You have a car in front of you that you're following, the car is going to turn left, but on the right you have a nice wide apron, or shoulder as it is known. It's fully paved. It's just a lot of times the pavement's better than the road itself, and you can pull off to the right and keep on going right past them. Works well. Well, fact of the matter is, it tends to see only a very narrow window over there, and it's more likely to just nail the brakes instead. Oh, here we have a school bus. Let's stand by, stand by, stand by. Okay. Boy, he ain't stopping on the hill. Incidentally, there is a mode that this vehicle has, which I haven't used yet, but I will, which I, of course, affectionately call on electric vehicles the golf cart mode, because it's 1 foot drive. You let up on the accelerator and the brakes come on until you stop, actually. And if you push the accelerator down, you go forward. I don't like it at all under any circumstances. The very few automotive journalists I read, which is basically none, some of them seem to like it. In stop and go traffic situations, I don't like it, period. The really good cars nowadays in stop and go situations, if you have the cruise on, it has traffic cruise, what I tend to call it. Everybody has their own particular nomenclature, but the car will just putt along in traffic, in stop and go traffic, and stop, and when the car in front of you goes, it goes. And that's a fantastic system, because it really does take the strain off of you. And but it, again, it's one of these things where you're taking your attention off of things, but in a circumstance like that, where you got cars in front of you, cars behind you, and they're all going 3 miles an hour, if the car can handle that, which many can now, that's the way to go then. I don't want to sit there and spend all my time pushing down, letting up, telling Aunt B I'm going to be late for supper. So there we have it. Now, what else can I tell you about this car? Well, it has a real solid feel to it in the handling department, in that it's got a smooth ride, to be sure. Look at this. I'm just all of a sudden crashing into this car. So why is that? Well, my cruise control was undeployed when I stopped for the school bus. You remember that? Yeah, I know. Remember those days, boy? Good times. Good times. So what do you do in these circumstances? Well, when you're following a car and you tend to, let's say, two of the most important times of driving where you're going to be distracted from things that have nothing to do with the actual operation of the car, in my opinion, are going to and coming from work. Because going into work or school, you're going into work, you're going into school, you're thinking about the day ahead, thinking about, well, I need to remember to do this, I need to remember to do that thing over there. And you have all kinds of things like that that are on your mind, that are playing on your mind. And on the way home from work, you're thinking about that fight you had with your boss, what kind of ludicrous ideas they have for you to pursue certain tasks or whatever it is that you're doing that you think are just crazy and won't work. So you're thinking about all that stuff, and before you know it, you're distracted. You're real distracted. That's especially bad. I counsel people who ride motorcycles to work and back, because that's, especially once you start riding a long time, you've been riding motorcycles for years, sometimes decades, you go into autopilot, and autopilot is not good. It's good in one sense, in that you do have, if you have a fundamental way of looking at things that you knowing what to look for and be ready for automatically. Same thing with driving. Although this Volvo's doing all that for you, because, safety, it's looking. But you have that situation where you can also put your mind to sleep too much when you're on autopilot, and that's when accidents can happen. So anyway, I know in a roundabout way I'm talking about the technology, and I'm talking about the technology on this car, because this thing has everything that is pretty much out there at the moment. I'll go into the various permutations of cruise control that this has. It actually has two. And one of them is a pilot system that basically is driving the car for you. But the thing about the pilot systems we have now, and this includes GM Super Cruise, is they tend to work in situations where you really don't need them as much. Except for, like, I always go back to the analogy of driving in West Texas or driving in Australia. There's parts of Australia, I was told, from lifelong Australians who were visiting America and I was working with. They told me that there's roads out in parts of Australia that you could literally tie off the steering wheel, provided your alignment is good on your car or truck. You could tie off the steering wheel and just sit there, and it'll just go on that road. The road is so straight that it just goes right along, and that's it. Now, these Super Cruise systems here in the United States, what an integral part of all this stuff is mapping, and information has to be fed into the car about where the car needs to be put in terms of the lane and everything else. And that's when you're getting into a really complex area that I don't trust very much at the moment. I think we're so far away from where we need to be with something like that. And, you know, eventually, here's my prediction, eventually we're going to get to the point where people realize what we actually need are trains. See, they're real good at you not having to drive them. And on the same kind of roads where you would be in a situation where a Super Cruise or that kind of thing, or a Volvo pilot system would work very well, a train would work even better, because there's not a whole lot of you're not going to take a car on Super Cruise up through a mountain pass. They're probably trying that. I'm sure the engineers are out testing that right to this day to see what the limitations of their system is, and whether or not it will even work in that scenario. But most of the places where we're going to have this Super Cruise set up are places that, and who is it for actually? Traveling salespeople? Are there even people traveling near as much as salespeople used to have to travel? Yeah, probably. There's probably still a lot of travel involved with a lot of sales positions, because nothing's better than a face-to-face sale, interaction, that kind of thing. For everybody, it's better for the customer, it's better for the salesperson. That's what people are still trying to do. I still think a tremendous amount of air travel is for people that, because there's so much of it we can do remotely now. But when you need to be there, you need to get there through a variety of means. And if you're going to drive one of these automobiles, it would almost make sense to have something like that, except I believe these systems are going to lull you to sleep because you don't have to pay attention to anything. Well, I'll tell you, everything has its price, and this 2023 Volvo S60 Recharge All-Wheel Drive Ultimate Black Edition with options will set you back $63,690. But it has something much more valuable. That Black Edition means you have darkness.
Clouseau,
Yes?
are you wounded?
No. Fortunately, I was saved by the darkness.
Wow, just look at all this aluminum and all this other stuff going on here. Well, we got things happening here. We got a lot of aluminum everywhere, and a stabilization system that is quite interesting. As a matter of fact, it looks like we may have a leaf spring back here. Is that what this is here? It certainly is what it looks like. But this is all aluminum, this lower control arm, and that one's steel up there, another control arm. And in the middle of all this is a rear differential that you may note is completely unattached to the front drive system. Similar to the way Toyota does a lot of their all-wheel drive hybrids, this particular Volvo does in fact a very similar thing, with the electric motor being ensconced inside here where that differential is to power the rear wheels when necessary, but it's completely separate from the front. So the coordination has to be done all electronically so bad things don't happen, but you don't want bad things happening. As far as the front wheels and the rear wheels have to be in concert when the rear wheel drive system's activated. And as you can see up in here, there's our shock absorber. And that is in fact, it looks like a composite rear leaf spring. Wow, that is very cool, very sophisticated. Works great. But look at all these links and parts and bits and other bits. This is a very sophisticated rear suspension system. Hear that echo right there? Can you hear that? That's me off the muffler, rear muffler. But wow, what an interesting and unusual rear setup we have here on our S60 Recharge. I've never seen so many parts, but then again, they all make sense when you sit there and take a look at it. But I'm just, having a transverse leaf spring just is very cool. That's Corvette territory. If you know, last Corvette I had, which was earlier this year, that before I started doing the U-tubes, I was trying real hard to figure out exactly what kind of rear suspension it had, and front suspension for that matter, because on this car the front suspension is much more conventional. But boy, look at that. Look at those beautiful aluminum lower control arms, huh? And as you can see, there's a good amount of clearance, this being a Volvo, and they know that all the roads in the world are not perfectly improved. So they've done this for us to give us plenty of clearance. This is a phenomenally interesting rear suspension. Thank you, Volvo, for making this so interesting to talk about. As I weave my way home, freed from the postal menace, I just want to say it's a nice car. Overall, after plugging in a couple of times and not plugging it in others, I got about 38.5 miles per gallon too, which is very, very reasonable for such a fine, safe, and above all, dark edition of a car. So until we meet again, my friends, please drive carefully, and above all, don't fear the darkness.
Que 5 wollen, 5 viel